C2 Wrestling Podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. CTD and Snowden, we're back. We have a few things on this channel that we plan on doing yearly. You saw us dress up for Halloween 2 years in a row. Last year, if you were around, we had the first ever edition of the TWOEYS, and they're back. The year-end awards from CTD and Snowden. What has been the best or worst in WWE or professional wrestling? Straight from the boys. It's one of my favorite videos to do, one of my favorite podcasts to record. Last year it was awesome. This year will be just as good. We're in the matching CM Punk shirts with the Blazers. But before we get into our nominees tonight, our categories, our winners, and breaking down everything, we start things off as usual. 2026 starts the same as 2025, the same as the first day of this channel. How you doing today, Snowden?
How am I doing today? I am doing just fine. It is cold out here in New Jersey. I went on a little walk today, freezing my ass off, been locked inside ever since. Spitballing ideas for the TWOEYS today. We've been looking forward to this one. You know, you mentioned Halloween, you mentioned last year's TWOEY Awards. These are the two podcasts each year that I really look most forward to. There's something so funny, and it's funny to everybody, but it's almost a weird little inside joke. Us just wearing blazers for no reason. There's not even like an inside joke to it, but I know it cracks us up internally. It's always a good time. It's fun. The C2W's though, we got to get them underway. There's a couple categories to get into. So I want to turn the question back to you before we get started. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I do feel like I have to make a commitment that next year we'll take it to another level. Maybe get like a podium or something, and or maybe we'll have other members of C2 announce the winners or
Mhm.
something. We got to always work on getting bigger and better. We've got the new little layout. We're freshening things up here. I'm posting clips out the wazoo. We're getting there. We're gonna keep pumping out content. This is one of my favorite content things to do because there's a lot of awards, a lot of them. Plenty of them are nonsense.
Yeah,
Some of them are at the wrong time of year. WWE, why are the Slammies at WrestleMania? Makes no sense.
like the wrestling fiscal year.
Exactly. This is the end all be all of all award shows. This is the creme de la creme. This is the one that when you go on their Wikipedia one day, it will say winner of blank TWOEY year. This is where you got to be. This is the most prestigious wrestling award show in the world.
It's going to be another great year. A lot of nominees, couple winners, all deservingly so. Last year's C2Ys were fantastic. This year might be even better. I mean, I think it's time. What category do you want to start with?
I will start with telling the folks listening to subscribe, follow us on our socials, follow us on anything, I don't know, X, Apple Podcast. Just go follow, go subscribe. But the categories for the 2026 TWOEYS, we have the best match. We have the Ssssss'Change moment of the year, the biggest moment, the rivalry of the year, the Bret Hart hater of the year, the tag team of the year, the best female wrestler of the year, and we will cap it all off with the best male wrestler of the year. Now, when we get a few more years into this thing, I'm sure we'll make a little spreadsheet and have, best male wrestler 2024, 25, 26, whatever. I don't even know if I'm doing the right yet. Is it the 25 TWOEYS?
25 TWOEYS.
I keep calling it the 26 TWOEYS because it's coming
Eh,
out in 26. Whatever. You guys know what I mean. For the
same thing.
year 2025, it's kind of like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. They say this is the 2025 Super Bowl, but it gets played in 2026.
Hmm.
So that's it for you. I think we have to start on a negative. I think it's the best way to do it
I
because
agree.
negativity, that's the juice on social media.
Yeah.
That's all people care about is being negative. So to start negative, we will start with the change it moment of the year. Would you like to let the people know our nominees?
The nominees for this year's Change It Moment of the Year, in no order: the WWE Raw Tag Team Division, the new WWE ESPN deal, WWE's new PLE, WrestlePalooza, literally anything Dark State, or John Cena's heel run. Now, there's a couple good nominees in there. There's a lot to change. Honestly, all five of these kind of win. They kind of do win. But I'm going to give you a little drum roll. And the winner is
John Cena's heel turn and his heel run. It We'll go through each nominee as we will with each category, but we'll start things off with the winner and why it was the winner. John Cena's heel turn. You could argue it's the biggest moment of the year, but the heel run after is so head scratching. I don't even want to call it bad. I want to call it head scratching because it just felt like the entire time they just had no direction. And they were like, okay, we need to have him face these few people. And what hindsight has told us is what we thought. They did it to have this moment without any real plan after. And you can get away with that in a lot in wrestling. You can do title changes, you can do turns, you can do returns, debuts, whatever, without like a true plan and just kind of figure it out. You have a guy debut from NXT. And it's like, we don't really know which direction we want to go with this person, but let's just have him on for a few weeks. We'll see how the crowd reacts and we'll kind of go from there. Maybe he'll be heel, maybe he'll be face, he, she, whatever. This is one where it's so massive. You can't do it on a whim. You gotta have a plan. You have to have essentially 6 months planned out going from his heel turn through his heel run to his turn back to babyface, which we all expected. Now, the turn back to babyface, you could argue, is just as bad as his heel run because it was just 1 week, one promo, Cody Rhodes saying, dude, this isn't you. And then he comes out and we're like, you know what? That heel run was so bad that we'll take it. We'll take it.
I don't think there's ever been a heel or a babyface run that has been so bad that they just fully nixed it. Like that has never really happened. And it goes to show John Cena turning heel was the idea. There was no plan that followed. Maybe there was a loose Rock, Travis Scott involvement somewhere, some way, somehow that never came to fruition and it ruined a lot of this, but it's even deeper than that. They ran back a couple of the hits with John Cena. Cena Orton, Cena Punk fall during that heel run. Cena Punk was in Saudi. Shouldn't have been in Saudi. Could have been so much better. Cena Orton. Cena Styles was great down the line. Could have been better during the Cena heel run. No change to the music, no change to the gear, little bit of change to the entrance. They just didn't pull out all the stops like they should have for what could have been a generational moment in wrestling. The actual moment of the heel turn is crazy. Yes, despite Travis Scott. Still a wild moment. But what followed for 5, 6 months, bad enough to win the change it moment of the year.
Yeah, it truly it's upsetting if I'm being honest for
Mm.
how it all played out. And you think back to, I'm glad you mentioned Travis Scott. I should honestly censor his name for
Yeah.
whenever we say it, but
He,
we know also now that there was a plan for Travis Scott and Cena to team face Cody and the Usos or whatever it was. It was Travis Scott, Cena, and Logan versus Cody and the Usos was
yeah, I
the
believe.
plan. And and they had to pivot. So, there was at least somewhat of a plan, but I could argue that's worse than what we ended up getting. And we are lucky that Travis Scott realized this shit was not for him
Yeah.
because I don't need to see Travis Scott wrestle. I'm glad I didn't see Travis Scott wrestle. I get the whole ruin wrestling thing, whatever. It was bad. And the scary part is it could have been worse.
Yeah. I mean, I remember saying the moment that heel turn happened, again, the moment is great, but I was not a fan of the Cena promos. I didn't think they were clicking. I didn't like the reasoning Cena was giving to being heel. It just didn't add up. It didn't make sense. There really was no story there. There was, but they just didn't go that route. They went the totally opposite route. It could have been worse, as crazy as that sounds. But again, it is bad enough to win the Ssssss'Change moment of the year. What could have been the Cena heel turn is one of the biggest drop balls in wrestling. A moment we never thought would happen. We were live streaming during Elimination Chamber saying, it ain't Cena. Cena ain't turning. And lo and behold, he did. And man, maybe it's part rock too. He hasn't shown up. Maybe he showed up once or twice since, not in a big capacity. There was just a lot that went wrong there when it so easily could have went right. And I do got to mention, Cena wanted 220 something dates or whatever and gets 36. If the guy's asking for it in his final run, you give him the 220 dates.
Well, to be fair, they don't even have 220 dates.
Whatever it
Yeah,
was he
yeah,
was asking. Yeah, he
yeah.
wanted all the live, which they don't do live shows like that anymore either,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But I mean, I guess technically, he can get close to 200 if he were pulling up every Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, PLEs included, he'd be in the hundreds. But it's a lot.
It is a little frustrating though, knowing that he said that conversation was a few years ago because he knew
Hmm.
how far in advance these things had to be planned. At that time, they're obviously thinking, all right, we don't want to completely divert everything. So I understand them also being like, you have this career in Hollywood. Let's not mess that up. We appreciate what you've done.
Hmm.
I understand the kind of give and take, but what is annoying is they knew how many dates they had him for 2 years in advance, whatever. That's something you should have been working on instantly. You have your short list of people. I know it's 2 years away. Randy Orton is going to be in the WWE. If he gets hurt, whatever, you pivot. But you kind of plan, all right, we're going to have X amount of days or dates for a feud with Orton. So and so, Cody's going to be at that point. Cody's going to be there, and he's one of your top guys. Roman. We didn't even get like Cena Roman really in much capacity. That felt like a miss. So the heel run itself, it's once he turned back face and they just kind of focused on let's just have great matches outside of the Brock match. That obviously was solid, but the damage was already done. Like there was kind of no saving it. So John Cena's last run, it had some highs, it had some great moments, but it's gonna always have like a little asterisk next to it, a little red flag or whatever that it was just nowhere near as good as it should have been.
Absolutely. And I mean, before we do move into other categories, I guess we'll touch briefly on the nominees. Literally anything Dark State, one of the nominees, because Dark State, no offense to any of the four guys in the stable, they're not bad individually or even paired up. Just not a good faction, not a good stable, not really a redeeming quality tag team or faction this year for any of the brands involved. Tag team gold 2 times, beat the Hardy Boys. I just am not clicking with Dark State.
One thing that I really don't like with Dark State, again, this isn't even their fault. I hate when you have a faction or a team and they get kind of put in this box where seeing them just standing around backstage doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
When they first started, they're like destroying things, lighting
Blowing
things
up
on
the arena.
fire
Yeah,
practically, you
yeah.
know? And then I know it's been months since that, but they're on this whole crusade. All right, they've got the tag titles. It feels like they should want more, but you just go and see them and they're just doing a backstage promo and like Javon Evans just walks up to them or whatever. It's like this doesn't add up. Like at least with the Wyatt Six, they kind of have a little bit more so. Uncle Howdy has a little bit of an alternate persona. So you can make sense of him just being Bo Dallas standing backstage in a backstage interview because you're like, oh yeah, he's dark and twisted and he's
Mm.
just not Uncle Howdy at this moment. You can make sense of it. Dark State, it just nothing makes sense. Nothing from their matches to the wins and losses to their reasoning for doing things, like from wanting to take over NXT to like not, to just like being okay with whatever. Just none of it is good.
None of it was good. And speaking of none of it was good, WrestlePalooza this year. Not the greatest PLE of all time. The first PLE on the ESPN deal, which is also a nominee, so we'll kind of combine these two. The ESPN deal is one outrageously priced. It's complicated as all hell to even figure out how to get it. WrestlePalooza being the first PLE on that deal, people didn't know how to access the PLE. AJ Lee's return, obviously, that's a big moment. Could have been bigger. We talked about the Cena run. One of his only face matches this year was a dud against Brock Lesnar. Should have been a bigger PLE all around. You mentioned it before we even started this. We could have 10 so change it moments of the year from just this PLE alone.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. Like
It was bad. That's
there's
it.
just, and another thing that we mentioned before we came on was Cody Drew. It was
Yeah.
one of those where so many people were like, all right, they got to be doing something big. And I remember our prediction video, I mentioned, I was like, I think it's just going to be straight up Cody wins.
Yeah.
And this is not like something that I'm like, oh, everybody, like, you gotta see this coming. It's like, no, like, I'm trying to be like Paul Revere here. Like, guys, you're getting your hopes up for something that's going to end really bad. And it did, sadly. Yeah, horrible. And then the ESPN deal on top of it. I mean, talk about just the worst communication ever. Like
Yeah.
ESPN stressing about how easy and simple it was going to be. And let's call it for what it was, just out and out lying about
Yeah.
who would be able to view it and not be able to view it. Yeah. When you have Stephanie telling people to just get a VPN and then trying to black out people using VPNs and whatnot, it is a little bit of this, isn't really fair. And we're at the point now, all right, Peacock, you're not going to need it as much anymore, but you're not paying the same amount for a pay-per-view every year. But if you're not someone who cares about anything else on that ESPN Unlimited or whatever the fuck it's called, it's a lot of money just for
Worthless.
wrestling,
Yeah.
just for one, maybe one show a month.
Get a VPN. We'll leave it at that. But we will move it along to a new category. I'll let you choose. Where do you want to go?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Okay.
I do want to touch on the Raw Tag Division.
Oh, okay. We did skip over that. Yes, the Raw Tag Division, the final nominee for Change It Moment of the Year. And the Raw Tag Division as a whole is a nominee because you have the New Day heel turn, which was a bit of a dud. It got better with Grayson Waller getting added. They've had some fun there, but that was a dud. They won the tag titles in a lackluster match. You have the Judgment Day, who were tag champions, the biggest faction in the company at a point in time, and they are not defending the titles for months. They're not in matches, let alone defending the titles. A large dud there. It has finally picked up with AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And then
AJ
now
Lee.
the titles, yeah, AJ Lee, the titles transitioning to the Usos. We're finally getting somewhere, it seems, but it's December 31st, January 1st. It is the new year. It should not have taken this long to get there.
Yeah, and SmackDown's got its issues as well, but it should be getting better going back to 3 hours. But we have like cold hard evidence of a few months of the SmackDown tag division being the best thing in the entire company. And then you looked over at the Raw side at the same time, and it was like these aren't even being defended. It just made it even more glaring about how bad it was. I mean, I remember us shouting from the rooftops, like,
Yeah. That
How can you do this on SmackDown and you can't do it on Raw? The shows are the same amount of segments.
War Raiders, Creed Bros,
Yep.
Bait and Dunn, New Day, Judgment Day, Lee and Styles, Joaquin Wild, and Cruz del Toro. Like there's tag teams all over the brand. They just weren't utilizing 7 out of 9 of them. And then the two they were utilizing weren't defending the titles. So not a very explosive tag division this year.
Yeah, and one last mention too, the WrestleMania match, it was like 7 minutes long. They put it on there just because it had a sponsorship to it, and the War Raiders fit the sponsorship perfectly.
Putting on
Like,
Clash of Clans right
yeah,
now.
a little Clash of Clans. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. It does seem like we're starting to get back to it being better, but it's one of those that when I was a kid and I had more time on my hands, universe mode, I'm like, if they're gonna make this be horrible, I'm not gonna make it be horrible. I'm gonna do all the matches I want myself. So they need to get moving on that.
I agree. Now we will move it along to a new category. I said I'm going to let you choose. Where do you want to go?
Let's go to the biggest moment.
I agree. That's where I would have went as well. The nominees for biggest moment of the year. John Cena taps out. The Vision, Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman turn on Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins fakes an injury plus cashes in the money in the bank at SummerSlam. Brock Lesnar returns at SummerSlam. And finally, Paul Heyman turns on Roman Reigns and CM Punk, joining Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 41. Some good nominees there. A lot of big moments this year.
Yeah. Also, we should mention the John Cena heel turn was a massive moment. But
Hmm.
since we had it in the Change It moment of the year with his heel run, we kind of excluded it from being in this because you don't really want the same thing kind of in multiple categories. Yes, the John Cena heel turn was massive, and it was one of the biggest moments in wrestling history. But this is the C2Wrestling, and we do things a little bit different here. That's a great moment, but with a lot of great moments, it also matters what happens after. You know,
Hmm.
if you start at the 20 and you hit a bomb for 70 yards, 75 yards, that's cool. But if you fumble on the very next play, we remember the fumble. We don't remember the deep pass. So I just wanted to make mention as to why that was not in the biggest moment of the year. Would you
Absolutely.
like to say the winner of the biggest moment of the year?
Well, I was going to argue maybe we'll go over all the nominees
Okay.
and then go into the winner. So we'll start with off the back of John Cena's heel turn. John Cena tapped out only a couple weeks ago to our boy Gunther. Now, that is a big moment. It is a massive passing of the torch to a guy like Gunther, even though Gunther's already kind of been there, done that. John Cena, Mr. Never Give Up, gave up. And in the fashion he did, controversy, both sides. Should he have lost? Should he have won? Should he have tapped out, gotten pinned? Regardless of how you look at it, agree with it or disagree, that makes it one of the biggest moments of the year.
It was 20 years in the making.
Hmm.
You know, you could argue it's it's up there with him turning heel because it was something you thought would never happen. You could also argue his heel turn, he's had previous heel turns planned. He's talked about buying all of these things. From what we know, him tapping out has just never been in the cards. It's
No.
just never even been mentioned. It's even like you don't even think about it. You know what I even think of? Him facing Daniel Bryan. And at the time, Daniel Bryan was winning every match with the yes lock, the label lock.
Mhm.
And he pulls out a running knee to beat Cena. And it was
Yeah,
because Cena doesn't tap out and he ain't going to pass out in this situation. So we need a different way for you to win. You're going with the running knee, pal. Like that is what we're talking about. The level of John Cena does not tap out. Now, we told you so.
we told you so. C2 knew it first. All right. Now, we did have also The newly formed faction of the Vision this year, led by Seth Rollins, all came crumbling down. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker turn on Seth Rollins alongside Paul Heyman off the back of Seth Rollins getting hurt at Crown Jewel this past year. A big moment, considering that was the leading story between both brands, was the Vision. Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed all paired up, causing havoc. All came to an end. Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed stand tall over a still yet to return Seth Rollins.
You're one of those where you have the PLE. The next day, you hear the rumors of Rollins' injury. Even though he finished the match, it might be more severe. Then you start watching Raw and you're thinking, okay, maybe we'll get some sort of clarity. And you're not really thinking that they're going to pull the trigger in that aspect just because you're like, it's going to be off TV and they can just do the hold the fort down while I'm gone, i.e., Chad Gable. Exactly what happened with American Made, where he gets hurt and they don't split the group up. He's just like, hey, I'm going to be out for a bit. Do something good while I'm gone. And I feel like that's where a lot of people lean towards. And it just, we got a shocker for you. Here comes a big spear. Now, you could also make the argument it is similar to the Cena heel turn, but you can cut it a little bit of slack where they did this, got the big moment, but they clearly didn't have an immediate plan on what to do. To be fair, how could they? You can't really expect something like that to happen, which is what made it even more shocking. Oh, there's no way they're going to pull the trigger on this move that would lead to a WrestleMania match. We're talking about what would become the biggest story in the company when it happens. And they did.
Yeah, it was a crazy moment, a little unexpected, a little rushed, maybe. Again, it's off the back of the injury, so it's a tough call to do or to not do that moment. But just before that injury was another injury in quotations to our boy Seth Rollins. You were there when that match against LA Knight was cut short. Seth Rollins faked an injury, gets the whole comeback story at SummerSlam, cashes in, wins the championship, not just against anybody, but against CM Punk, who defeated Gunther that night. Probably the biggest angle in a long time. The heist of the century, too, the ruse of the century, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the greatest cash-ins, one of the greatest moments ever.
I was lucky to be at both. I was
Yeah,
there for the fake injury and I was there for the return. We're here. I mean, that was what, how many months ago was that? That was in
six,
August.
yeah, 5, 6 months ago. Yeah,
I still sit here 5, 6 months later with a piece of me like, maybe he did kind of tweak it.
yeah, a little bit,
And,
just a little bit.
and, they're like, let's lean into it. Let's, have you off for a while. That's how much I'm still like convinced, no, there's no way this was the plan the whole time. Like, there's no way. It was so well done. And of course, as wrestling fans, you always have your guard up.
Yeah,
You're always, you know, a little, I don't trust this.
skeptical.
Yeah, it smells a little fishy. When his music hit at SummerSlam, it was, all right, it's happening. And then he started to walk away. And it was like, okay, pretty cool, whatever. We've seen this before where it's, hey, I'm watching. I remember when Orton was Mr. Money in the Bank, he would just pop out and be like, I'm holding this, whatever. When he stopped, I don't know if there's ever been a louder reaction in wrestling for someone walking up the ramp and just stopping.
Yeah, I mean,
That stop, everyone knew what was about to happen.
even through the TV, their reaction was unbelievable. Being there in person, I can really only imagine. Um, it wasn't the only big reaction you heard in person that night at SummerSlam because the Beast Brock Lesnar made his return to WWE. Controversy involved. We'll set that aside. It's a massive return. It's regardless of if you like him or don't like him or his time's up or he's still got time left. It's one of the most surprising returns in a long time. There was not really rumors of it. Nobody was expecting it. Really an electric moment, regardless of what you think. If you are a wrestling fan, Brock is around right now. Until his controversy goes away, he's around. I don't know the situation. You pop for that moment if you're a wrestling fan. It's Brock Lesnar made his return. What has come after the Brock Lesnar return? All right, lackluster. We get it, but that moment itself, huge.
Yeah, and it was, we have to acknowledge it was surprising for more reasons than one. Like it,
Hmm.
for a multitude of reasons was why it was so shocking. I think we all just kind of accepted Brock was done. Like
Yeah.
with this going on, that's what really added to it. Yes, the him showing back up is a shock. Call me crazy, but I would have been less shocked if Vince came back than Brock. Just because, even though he's got all these allegations and whatnot, all of his ties and everything, Brock is like, you'd barely see him when there's no allegations. I think we all just kind of accepted, yeah, he's done. You know, his
Yeah.
career's over. The fact that he came back, and I remember you texting that day because we all, as a unit, stay true. Let's try to stay away from spoilers. But
Hmm.
you know, I don't, especially if I'm going to a show, I don't want to expect it coming. It was truly a genuine like. Was it a slammy that they had the jaw-dropping moment of the year? I feel like
Yeah, I
that was a
believe so.
slammy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a jaw-dropping moment of the year.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It really is electric. You know, it's there's a lot of controversy around it for some not great reasons. We get it, but as you said, that made it more surprising. So it definitely is a nominee at least for biggest moment of the year. But the final nominee or dates us all the way back to WrestleMania 41. It is the start of the vision, if you want to get technical. Paul Heyman turns on Roman Reigns and CM Punk and joins Seth Rollins, helps him win at WrestleMania 41. That was massive. WrestleMania 41, it's also night one. We didn't get to night two yet. So WrestleMania 41, we get it. In the long run of things, was a bit of a stinker. Night one itself, the bigger stinker until that main event match, until that moment. Without that moment, what a forgettable night. But that turn really made it something special.
That was the match itself was great.
Yeah.
And then you get the turn. Truly, all three of those guys, Paul Heyman could have walked out with.
Hmm.
And I would have been like, all right, I see it. Seth was the most shocking for it. Now we had a feeling, oh, this could happen. But there's a difference between this could happen and this will happen, or this could happen and it should happen. It was one of those things where even now, obviously they're split and they're no longer together. It was kind of hard to wrap your head around and picture Seth Rollins with Paul Heyman. Like it was almost one of those where it's like, nah, they can't do it because it'll just look too weird. Like there's just no way. But when you think about it, Paul doesn't need to be with Punk. He'd run his course with Roman. Him being with Seth was the shocking thing to do. And they did it pretty much to perfection.
Yeah, they really did. It's probably one of the best turns in the history of WWE. It was a great moment, but a lot of great moments. But what was the biggest moment? Let's hear it.
The biggest moment of the year goes to
I'll say it. Don't worry. Rollins faking the injury, cashing in the money in the bank at SummerSlam. What a moment. What a fake injury angle. It's never really been done like that. Just the wow factor alone, the questioning of weeks, how legit the injury looked. Crazy moment. People expected it, people didn't expect it. Even if you did, you were wowed by that cashing.
yeah, it was. You could argue that moment in two is both of those moments are the big moment. That cash in, it was I will never forget the crowd reaction and the pop. SummerSlam itself had a few moments where it was deafening. I
Hmm.
think of Cena's Titantron changing. I think of Brock's return. I think of Punk actually winning. I think of Jey Uso's entrance at the very beginning of night one. But near the top, if not the absolute top, was when those crutches hit the ground.
Yeah, that turn, that stop, and that toss of the crotches was just an oh my God moment of the year. Biggest moment for sure. Seth Rollins and the fake injury angle, plus the cash in. It's a lot of words, but you get it.
Yeah, you get the point. We move on to the best match of the year.
Hmm.
And these, you don't have to spend as much time breaking down because just go and watch them.
Yeah, they're there. I mean, kind of, because I don't know where anymore. It's not on Peacock or
Yeah,
anything else. I
actually,
don't know. Yeah.
that's actually a great point.
Yeah,
I
I
actually
have no
don't know if
idea.
you can
Yeah.
go watch
Yeah,
it.
I don't know anymore.
I
Yeah.
know where you can watch one of them. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know where you
Yeah.
can watch one of them. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I know where you can watch the Crown Jewel one. That's it. That's it.
Absolutely.
Actually, two of them. I know one of them that's on YouTube. But the nominees.
Best match of the year. John Cena versus AJ Styles, Crown Jewel. Tag Team TLC SmackDown. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, WrestleMania Night 1 Triple Threat. Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, Evolution. And Gunther versus CM Punk, SummerSlam. The best match of the year. Again, not a whole lot of description needs to go into all these because you can find them if you went hard enough, I'm sure. But Cena versus Styles, the nostalgia from that match alone. People were begging for it. They said they weren't going to give it to us. They ended up giving it to us. It started via a tweet. Whether it was planned or not planned, it's a genius way of doing it or a genius way of getting to it. It is probably, even if it's not the best match of the year to you, it's the best match of the Cena run. And that is saying something.
I was just about to say it's either this match or him versus Cody, and him versus Cody is more so like a Super Cena, Super Cody.
Yeah.
It was cool, don't get me wrong, but Cena Styles, like this was brings a tear to your eye watching. Like this was a tribute to wrestling, and to me, it had to be a nominee for the best match of the year. Hell, it's got an argument for being the winner.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now, we do have a tag team TLC in here. Took place on SmackDown. Should have took place at WrestleMania. And they ended up taking place at SummerSlam. And that match very well could have been in this slot instead of the SmackDown one. But that SmackDown TLC was a hot match. I wish I wrote down the competitors, but I did not. So it's one of the nominees.
It was DIY,
DIY, the
the
Profits,
Profits, and Machine
MFT,
Guns.
the Guns,
Yeah,
the Guns. Okay, yeah.
yeah. It was the SmackDown after WrestleMania.
Hmm.
I was watching congested in a hotel room
Yeah, all right, Snowden,
in
relax.
in South Jersey. I had just gotten back from a wedding. Was there a fourth team or was it just three? I think it was just three, right?
It was just three. It
Yeah.
was just three. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was fantastic. Look,
Yeah.
it
Great
was one
match.
of those you copy and paste, perfect world, Control C, Control V from SmackDown to WrestleMania.
Hmm.
Perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world. They put that match on WrestleMania. It's going to have shorter time. It's going to have ads everywhere. It's going to be 30 minutes after the last match.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Was it better for us that it was on SmackDown? Probably. But it shouldn't be like that. We
Mhm.
shouldn't have to be in that situation where, oh, it's better if it's on SmackDown because it'll get more time. No. This story, this match, this outcome deserved to be on WrestleMania with the same amount of time, with the same amount of moments, with the same crowd reactions, you name it. But it has to be a nominee for one of the best matches of the year.
Absolutely. The next match we spoke about a little bit already. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Triple threat WrestleMania night one. The storytelling, the physicality, Paul Heyman turning, Seth Rollins winning. We already talked about it a bunch. Not too much more to get into there outside of it being a great match and CTD having a point.
And it was also CM Punk's first ever main event of WrestleMania.
Absolutely. Big point there. The next match, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky Evolution. The match of the night for Evolution, not even close, ends with a cash in. Naomi, a big moment. Very physical match for Rhea and Io, fighting all over the arena. That was one of the best matches of the year. We'll get there in a little bit, but that is absolutely deserving of being in the category, in the nominees, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky.
Yeah, I think Evolution as a whole surprised a lot of people, including myself. It exceeded expectations. That was the main event, and it happened to be the best match, and it delivered. Granted, when does a Rhea EO matchup in some sort not deliver? I mean, they are two of the best in the world, not just for the women, for everybody. But it was probably the best of their matches that they've had. And that is saying something because they've never had a bad match together.
Absolutely. And you mentioned two of the best in the world, but the final nominee, the best in the world, CM Punk, won his first WWE World Heavyweight Championship since his return against Gunther at SummerSlam Night 1. A great match, very physical. Again, ends with CM Punk capturing gold. The Seth Rollins cash in, not necessarily part of the match, but it's all storytelling there. Gunther versus CM Punk, our favorite guy going versus our favorite guy going. Nothing to hate about that match.
Yeah, I mean Gunther was beating the shit out of him.
The shit out of him. Yeah.
And that was like a man, I love this. I was there live and I was probably in the 0.001% of people cheering for Gunther. And I love Punk, as you can tell. If I could go back, I would scream even louder for Gunther. I would not waver.
Absolutely. Well, the drum roll, the best match of I can't do it. The best match of the year is
Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, WrestleMania Night 1. It was a great match. I mean, it's uploaded on YouTube, so go watch it if you haven't seen it in a while. Somehow you've never seen it, but you're watching this. It's like 40 minutes altogether. That's a WrestleMania main event. Like that
yeah,
should be, it's 40 minutes, but it's not a dragging 40 minutes, from entrance to the end. It doesn't drag at all. We're talking more than just the match itself, the tying in of the stories, the issues with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman with all three. The absolute combination of it all has to factor in on why it is the best match of the year.
it absolutely is. And there's not many matches, WrestleMania matches, main events, whatever they are, where as we get closer to WrestleMania 42, the Rollins injury aside, how many times have we had a WrestleMania match where you go, they should run that one back next year? That's a rare occurrence. It's happened and people have complained. I don't think it would have happened in this situation. I think that is a big point in making it the best match of the year.
Up next, it's the rivalry of the year. There's been plenty of rivalries. Some have gone on for far too long. Some went on for far too little. But there can only be five that get nominated for the rivalry of the year in the TWOEYS. The nominees are NXT versus TNA. Up next, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, that we started to touch on just before. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Jey Uso versus Gunther. And Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. This has been a year of a lot of stories. Some have kind of pieced together mainly you think of the Cena run and you start going through rivalries of the year. If he latched on to someone a little bit longer, you could have added a Punk, an Orton, a Styles, but those were all one-offs. The only one that was like an actual story for a prolonged time was Cena Cody. And the payoff itself, it was one of those you don't get SummerSlam if you didn't have WrestleMania.
Mhm.
And as shitty as WrestleMania was, SummerSlam was awesome.
Yeah, SummerSlam definitely made up a little bit of the backwards progress from WrestleMania, but a lot of other feuds in here. Some took place at WrestleMania. Jey Uso captured gold. Little controversy there against our GOAT Gunther. Cody and Drew still active, still an ongoing feud. Maybe that's one that's gone on a little too long, a little too far. Who knows? Cena versus Cody, you mentioned that had a big payoff. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins realistically is also still going on. Cut short, paused for a moment off the Seth injury, but it is a great rivalry and maybe not talked about as highly. I know NXT is not as popular as Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, but the TNA invasion angle, bringing all these rosters over to TNA, over to NXT, having them go head to head has been great for all parties involved, and it isn't stopping here. That is absolutely deserving of at least being a nominee for Rivalry of the Year.
The tough part about award shows is you get strong recency bias
Yeah.
and you think more so of what's happened more recent. Cody Drew did have some great moments.
Mhm.
The problem is the more recent stuff hasn't been as great. It's been super predictable. You know, granted, I think the three stages of hell match is going to be awesome. I think that'll pay off. But Punk Rollins, I know people were kind of a little sick of it towards the end, and we haven't gotten the true payoff. But we got to remember, the year started with this main eventing Netflix. This was the start of the year, and that was a great match. And that
Mhm.
led into another match between the two. Like that feud going into WrestleMania was hotter than hot. You could have made the argument they didn't need Roman added. It could have just been Punk versus Rollins. Did it drag on a little bit too long? Yes and no, but how they did it was still fair. And then, the Rollins fake injury costing Punk. I think if we got a true payoff to Punk Rollins, people probably treat this rivalry better. And you and I understand the circumstances and understand that it still has to be a nominee.
Absolutely. I think if that did have its final payoff, it's probably winning this award. But the actual winner of Rivalry of the Year, da-da-da-da-da,
Four letters, one word.
Yeet.
Yay!
Jey Uso and Gunther, rivalry of the year. Now, some controversy involved. The haters are gonna hate, but Jey Uso wins the Rumble off the back of a championship match against Gunther. Goes on with the babyface moment of the year, beats the big bad Gunther, not just in any fashion, but makes him tap out in the middle of that ring. Jey Uso wins the World Heavyweight title. It's the biggest rivalry of the year. It is. It really is.
You got to also look a week before the Royal Rumble, Jey Uso loses to Gunther.
Yeah.
He comes out on Raw and cuts a pretty good promo
Yep.
that he knows what he has to do now. He knows how to beat him. He knows he can beat him. Then we have Jay win the Rumble. People forget, man. Gunther beating Jimmy to absolute bloody pulp. Just absolutely ripping the heart out of Jay. Jay finally beating Gunther, this big moment. The crowd goes crazy. Then people turned on Jay pretty quick. And they want to pretend like they never liked Jay. They're liars.
Yeah.
We always liked Jay, and we still like Jay. And the shock of Gunther actually beating him for the title on Raw was a surprise.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people expected that to not happen. And as we saw how it played out, it made perfect sense as to why it happened. But this is the rivalry of the year.
If you don't like it, don't watch. I don't know what to tell you. It was the rivalry of the year. But I mean, from there, we'll move it on. One word. The next category. Now, we ran this category last year during our initial C2Wrestling, but if this is your first time checking out the C2Wrestling, I'm going to give CTD a moment here. Explain to the fans what the Bret Hart Hater of the Year award is.
Look, the Bret Hart Hater of the Year is one of the most prestigious Tuies of them
So
all. It is
prestigious.
up there. It is, I would say, probably the most earned Tui of the bunch. Pretty much it is who shows the most characteristics of being as big of a hater as Bret Hart. And when I'm talking as big of a hater, I am talking about preying on someone's downfall. I am talking about taking joy out of other people's misery. I am talking about I hoped for this. I prayed for this, and it happened. That's what we're looking for when it comes to the Bret Hart Hater of the Year. When we mention someone's name to said person, they should be filled with rage. They should be filled with disgust. They wouldn't piss on this person if they were on fire. And it doesn't have to just be one person. This person could hate many people, it could hate many things. And that's why we have to crown each year the Bret Hart Hater of the Year.
And the nominees are Seth freaking Rollins, Grayson Waller, Solo Sikoa, Ethan Page, and Gunther. It's a hell of a list. A
It
lot
is
of
a great
haters in
list.
there.
There's a lot of haters, and I want to hammer home something. When it comes to the hater of the year, being a heel does not get you an automatic nomination.
Yep.
You could be a babyface and win hater of the year. I mean, one of the nominees, Seth Rollins, some of his biggest hating came from when he was a babyface.
Yeah. Also, CM Punk could be on this list. He
1
hates
million
Seth
per
Rollins.
1 million percent. Both of them. You know, last year CM Punk had an argument for it for his hatred of Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
You being a hater towards someone, someone's, something does not mean, oh, you're a bad guy and you're just rooting for bad. No, like it's almost something that you got to be born with.
Yeah.
You know,
Haters
it's,
are born with it.
yeah, like the hater in you. Like it just, when you go through the nominees, like Grayson Waller, for instance, he is a great nominee because talk about someone who would get giddy at the thought of bad things happening to people he doesn't like. You know, when he turned on Austin Theory that we didn't see and they split up, if you told him Austin Theory just got hit by a bus, I think he would go out and do a shoey.
Yeah,
Like
he
that
probably
would have
would.
been, it would have put a smile on his face. That is a hater.
Yeah, we'd be getting that Aussie, 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 oi,
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 oi
oi.
chant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be coming real quick from Grayson Waller, you know. And you look at a guy like Solo Sikoa, who has had a great development of his character over the last year or two, hating real hard on guys like Fatu, the Usos, really his opponents, where Grayson Waller hates on everybody who's walking past him pretty much. Ethan Page took a whole championship and changed it because it's a Canadian championship. He's Canadian. Screw North America. This is the only part of North America that counts is Canada. A lot of hating going on there. Gunther, I mean, come on. Come on. Like a little bitch. All right. That is deserving of being a nominee for Hater of the Year. But the winner of Bret Hart Hater of the Year
Seth freaking Rollins.
Very deserving. Now, I do got to say, it easily could be Gunther, but I have to choose Seth over Gunther because Gunther is going to be hating into the next year. I think his Hater of the Year tour started with somebody like Goldberg. Don't get me wrong. Gunther took some time off, comes back, retires Cena, but I think the majority of his hating is going to make him an early nominee for 2026.
Absolutely. And Seth, talk about being born with it. Like, this is a guy, if we had the TWOEYS back in the day, he's a nominee in 2013 and 2014, 2015, 20, you name it. This guy is a born hater of others, not just in wrestling. I think of football. Like, this guy hates Aaron Rodgers. He hates the Green Bay Packers. He is a natural born hater. Being a hater, is there a bigger moment as a hater than getting someone that is best friends with your enemy and the wise man to your other enemy and getting them to be turned on by him? That is unreal hatred to get that guy on your side because your two enemies love him more than almost anybody in the industry.
I mean, you hated a guy so much that you faked an injury to steal his championship from him.
Yeah.
That is all time hating, if you ask me. Seth Rollins, absolutely deserving. Again, a great category, a lot of great names, but Seth Rollins takes it for 2025. As we move on, I'm going to let you list the nominees for WWE Tag Team of the Year.
A tag team match, player. The TWOEYS Tag Team of the Year nominees are The New Day, Fraxium, The Hardy Boys, DIY, and Dark State.
Tag Team of the Year. Now, Dark State, we already shit on. They won some championship gold. They also won championship gold from the Hardys. So they're in the category. DIY, they've been around a lot this year. Maybe they haven't held gold, but they've been involved in all the feuds on SmackDown revolving not only the tag titles, but the United States Championship as of late as well. All over the TV, deserving of being
They did hold
nominees.
gold beginning of the
Oh,
year.
Yeah, they did. All right, that was the
They
beginning
beat
of
the
the year. You're
Machine
right. They
Guns
beat the
in the
Guns. Yes, yep.
203
Yep,
falls. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that was beginning of the year. So January is so far back, it's like hard to remember a little
it's
bit,
exactly a
but
year ago.
it is exactly a year ago. Praxium, again, a tag team that has been heavily involved on SmackDown, our current reigning tag team of the year. The New Day, prominent. Again, we kind of shit on Raw in their tag division, but they recovered. Adding Grayson Waller to the New Day, they've been prominent ever since. Also held tag team gold, whether you like it or not. They won it at WrestleMania. And then the last nominee, the Hardy Boys. Now, listen, you might be going, the Hardy Boys. They're not in WWE. They're over in TNA. NXT. All right. There was an invasion. It's all affiliated. And we had trouble coming up with another tag team. So the Hardy Boys are a nominee.
Well, they deserve to be a nominee because they've
Yes.
been on WWE television
They
plenty.
held WWE gold.
They absolutely did hold WWE gold in a year that I think the first few months may up to SummerSlam. So even more than the first few months, we're talking about tag team wrestling at such a high standard.
Mhm.
More so from SmackDown. They brought it. The last few months have really dampened things, and it is a shame. There's a lot of good tag teams in WWE. You know, this may be the tag team of the year, but there are probably more tag teams than they've ever had.
Well, let's also state we held out factions here. We didn't throw
Yes.
MFT in. We didn't throw the Wyatt Six in. We didn't throw the Vision in. We didn't throw Judgment Day in as a whole. We kept the factions out of it and we boiled it down to tag teams.
Yes. And now, if, the Wyatt Six, they haven't done shit since winning the tag titles. They defended them like twice.
Mhm.
But if Gacy and Loomis were on some crazy run as the tag team champions, they probably would have gotten a nominee as them two together.
Yeah.
But we didn't get that from any of these factions. None of them, even though there's factions that could be nominated for a faction of the year, there was no tag team from any of these factions that you're like, oh, they have to be in. You could make the argument the Vision could be the faction of the year. As a tag team,
Yeah,
what's their
not
big
really.
fun?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not really in the cards for the Vision. I do want to spit out an honorable mention here. Still ongoing. Ethan Page and Chelsea Green, man. That's an honorable mention for Tag Team of the Year. They're holding Tag Team Gold. That's Tag
They
Team.
are.
But Tag Team of the Year, the winner, 2025. I can't do the drum roll. The Hardy Boys of Matt and Jeff Hardy. Oh, fireworks. Oh my God. Matt and Jeff Hardy, an illustrious TNA run. They held tag team gold in NXT. They've been involved, floating over back and forth. WWE, TNA, they are affiliated at this point. And, maybe we'll make it a point from here on out that if you want to be in one of these categories, you got to win the gold, perhaps. But they did that. Tag team of the year, the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, and Matt Hardy just recently tweeted they have re-signed with TNA, but we know this partnership that's going on. The Usos are now the tag team champions. Matt Hardy said, let's give the people the match that they've always wanted. The Usos versus the New Day versus the Hardy Boys at WrestleMania. That three-way tag TLC, book it.
Sign me up for that. But we still got some categories to get to before we get to WrestleMania. Two more categories to go, and we're about to get into the best female wrestler of the year. Before I do list off the nominees, heavy year for women's wrestling. Triple H hates the woman. Oh my God, he doesn't give them anything. They get all the time in the world now, all right? A lot of women's wrestling, their own PLE, some very prominent names. We had to boil it down to 5.
Yes.
And the nominees are Jade Cargill, Io Sky, Becky Lynch, JC Jane, and Lyra Valkyria. 5 prominent names throughout women's wrestling right now. They've all been in pretty deep storylines one way or another. They've all held championship gold one way or another. Some still maybe even do. Some you might not have expected to see on this list, but they made it for a reason. Who do you want to start with?
I want to start with Lyra Valkyria. Because I've said many times at the very beginning, I was not a Lyra guy. And she won me over fairly quick. If we expand the TWOEYS, which isn't impossible, as years go on, we'll probably add some more categories, make this a bigger show, make it a longer show, even though it's already long with all these categories. If there were a TWOEY for breakout of the year, a TWOEY for, I don't want to say most improved, but like most improved with the crowd. If there was a newcomer of the year, something along those lines, Lyra might have it on lock. Like this
Yeah.
was a really good year for Lyra, one where you kind of forget how new she still is because of how prominent she was and how good she was. I mean, winning the Women's Intercontinental Championship, they really didn't do much with her at first. And it kind of worried me because I wasn't fully bought in. I know you don't want to give this person credit, but another nominee, Becky Lynch did a damn good job getting myself and the people to care about Lyra Valkyria because that feud, that story, it 1,000,000% took Lyra to another level, and she leveled up clearly. So much so that she's a nominee for the best woman wrestler of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Lyra. You know, Lyra dates back to NXT UK. I've always thought she's on the better end of the woman talent, and I think it's finally starting to show. Has been showing throughout the year. Didn't do a lot with her at first. They've evolved. Even past the Intercontinental title feud, she's still heavily involved with Bayley all the time, who is a very prominent name in women's wrestling. Lyra is clearly high on the list for everybody in creative, Triple H. She's going to do big things. Bucky Lunch, um, not my favorite women's wrestler. Prominent, though, yes, for sure. Not only the IC title run, the return match with AJ Lee, definitely has been all over WWE TV. A little stint with the Vision, got involved there, all over the show. JC Jane is somebody I want to bring up, though, where, again, maybe the viewership to NXT isn't the same, but JC Jane, an all-star year, not wouldn't be the first time an NXT talent has won a category in the C2Wrestling. It happened last year. It could happen this year. JC Jane, what a come up from really kind of being the lackey to a stable to the owner of a stable, if you want to put it that way, to a double champ between two companies, WWE and TNA. A stellar year for JC Jane.
Two-time NXT Women's
Two time.
Champion. We looked at her as she just loses. Like she
Mm,
did not win a lot ever. Her first NXT Women's title run was pretty shocking. That
yeah.
win was really not expected. And what makes her so deserving of being this, in this category, a potential winner, she went through a strong batch of women that every single one of them, we were like, okay, JC's just holding it so she's just holding it so Jordan Grace can finally win the title. Oh, she's just holding it so Blake Monroe can. She's just holding it so Julia can, whatever. Every single one of those names, we were like, yeah, JC Jane is just holding it so this person can have their moment or whatever.
Now she beat Masha for the TNA championship.
Yes.
Now I do gotta say some controversy there now that we know. Maybe they needed to get the title off Masha. Sure. Way to fucking capitalize on your moment. Way to take your opportunity and run with it for JC Jane.
Yeah, so Masha was still around after dropping the title
A
because
little bit, right? Yeah.
yeah, she even got like a rematch, and we thought, okay, this is where, JC drops it. And she
Hmm.
didn't. JC honestly is probably the best example of, okay, this is where she loses. And then she would just win. Like a lot of matches. It was, okay, here's where it ends. And then it wouldn't. And in all of those matches, she looked pretty good. So she has to be one of the top contenders to win.
Absolutely. I've always been on the JC Jane train. I think we've both always been on the Jade Cargill train. Another name who is currently your women's WWE champion and had a little bit of a feud there with Tiffany, finally wins the belt. They're clearly holding her over for a bigger, probably Bianca Belair feud, but still a very prominent name, a great heel turn for Jade Cargill has really helped her character. Really prominent, especially now that she's held the championship, is the champion. Many names could have made this list, but it feels necessary to get Jade on here.
And we can't forget her feud with Naomi
Yeah.
was very big, very
Mm,
prominent. Obviously, it did wonders for Naomi just as
mm,
much as it did, if not more, for Jade Cargill. That was kind of the next level up for Jade. You
yeah.
know, she won that, but Naomi obviously ends up winning Money in the Bank and taking things to the next level for herself and winning a championship her way. But we thought for a bit, okay, Jade, she beats Naomi, then she's just going to get tied back into Naomi because we expect this triple threat to happen at some point. And we got the Jade heel turn somewhat unexpected. We expected the day to come, maybe just not in that exact moment. And she wins the championship. I'm glad we're not holding it against her that they've done nothing with her since winning the title. Like
Yeah.
she's like I no disrespect to some of the people that she's faced, but they've done nothing prominent with her since she's won the championship, but she still deserves to be a finalist.
Absolutely does. Speaking of prominent, a very prominent name throughout the year has been Io Sky all over the Raw brand. Main events, Evolution with Rhea Ripley, WrestleMania, retains the championship. A great match, one of the matches of the weekend for WrestleMania. Somebody that has been all over wrestling over the last couple of years, but has been really almost a larger than life character for WWE in this past year.
I mean, we've said it so many times. I said it in this podcast earlier. Io Sky isn't just in the conversation for the best women's wrestler. She's in the conversation for best wrestler. And I think this year a lot of people started to really give that credit. We saw a lot of the male wrestlers mentioning it. More so when her and Rhea faced at Evolution and how good the match was. People really started to click on Io is that fucking good. Like she is like the you know probably the best in the world.
Well, she is that good. Is she the best female wrestler of the year? I mean, the winner is Io Sky. She is that damn good. She is the best female wrestler of the year, deservingly so. Again, probably one of the categories this year that could have had the most nominees for sure, but we narrowed it down to five. Io Sky, though, not only from involvement, storylines, just in-ring ability, is the best. And this dates back, I don't want to say C2 always knows, but C2 always knows. Io Shirai, NXT, debut. I date myself back to saying this is the best women's wrestler the company has ever seen. And that has held true. And there's more talent now than ever. And she still is the top of that list.
Yeah, and what a year she's had. Her beating Rhea on Raw, bit unexpected.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020 with all of that. Not many people were expecting Io to win that match because they were hyping up and building so much that we were going to get the the so long people wanted matchup of Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, and Io beats Rhea and then
Yeah.
goes into WrestleMania, and a lot of us were saying they gave Io the title just because they're going to have her get pinned because they're saving this Rhea Bianca match to make it even bigger and they don't want either of them to get pinned. And then Io wins. And it is like more than confirmed. Oh, she is like the creme de la creme of the women's division. Like she is top dog. And she is the TWOEYS winner for best female wrestler.
Well, well, well. This brings us to our final category of the night. We've gotten through a lot already, but we boil it down to the best men's wrestler of 2025. And the nominees are CM Punk, Oba Femi, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, and four letters, one word, Yeet Jey Uso. Couple names to get into here.
Oh, yeet. Look, you don't win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
You don't win the championship at WrestleMania. You don't
Win the
main
tag
event,
titles to end the year.
win the tag titles to end the year, main event multiple shows, be in war games with the biggest of big names, and not at the very least be a nominee for best of the year.
Absolutely. There's no better way to put it. If you disagree, don't subscribe or unsubscribe. I don't give a shit. You are wrong. He is absolutely a nominee for Best Male Wrestler of the Year. Other names in the list, Oba Femi, what a run. NXT champion, two-time NXT champion, Cody Rhodes match at Saturday Night's Main Event, John Cena's final show, the absolute next big thing in wrestling, Obafemi. Can't say enough good things.
I mean, just the total package.
Total package. That's a rare thing that I will throw out. And I've said it recently about a Carmelo Hayes, about a Braun Breaker, and I'll say it again about a Obafemi. Those really are three guys that are the total package.
He's just, I mean, he's had a great year. What's crazy is he's had a really good year. I mean, two NXT title reigns. One of them, you know, charts up there as one of the longest in history. We thought maybe he would break the record. He ends up not breaking it. Wins it back in kind of an unexpected fashion. We thought, he was going to lose it again, whatever. He has this crazy year, is the face of a brand that goes on to a new network. And I expect 2026 to just lap 2025 when he's a nominee for Best Male Wrestler of the Year. It is crazy that we are entering 2026, and I fully expect 2026, December 30 something, whatever, when we're recording, nominee Best Male Wrestler of the Year, Obafemi. It is crazy that I expect it already.
He's one of the names that I expect him to be there for 26, 27, 28, 29, and so on. He really could be in the list every year. I believe he was in the list last year. Cody Rhodes makes the nominees again and, went into Mania champion, won the championship at SummerSlam, has put on some great matches throughout the year. One of the most prominent names in wrestling. Of course, he's going to be a nominee.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy's the face of the company.
Yeah.
He's
QB1, baby.
He is QB1. People forget, man. That ladder match against Kevin Owens.
Banger.
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 His match against John Cena at SummerSlam.
Banger.
Banger. Him versus Seth Rollins at Crown Jewel.
Banger.
Banger. Seth Rollins, you could argue, snubbed. He
Yeah.
could be in the argument for best male wrestler. Like he should be in this conversation. But this is a strong five, and it's tough to just narrow it down to five. And Cody Rhodes, it feels wrong to leave him off. He's got to be not just one that's nominated. He's got to be one of your odds-on favorite to win.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And there is some stiff competition in this list. One of the names in this list won the belt 2 times this year, and that is CM Punk. Another guy that maybe takes the spot or the slot from Seth Rollins, but it's been clobbering time all year. First WrestleMania main event. Maybe he didn't win. There's more to it than just winning for a guy like CM Punk. Not only wins the championship at SummerSlam, beats Gunther for the championship, gets the title match at Saturday Night's Main Event, is your current World Heavyweight Champion to end the year of 2025. Has the guy put on a bad match since he's come back to WWE? No. It's been banger after banger. He's also been in matches on Raw this year that he hasn't maybe had the time to do since his return. Absolutely a nominee for Best Male Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. Him versus Seth Rollins to Netflix. Awesome.
Yep.
Like this was a fantastic year for CM Punk. The guy went to Saudi Arabia, a site we thought we would never see.
Yeah, lucky it landed on opposite day this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
It is crazy. It is. It absolutely is. This whole list is crazy. There's 5 great names. We cap it off with Gunther, who won the championship this year from Jey Uso, gets the match against CM Punk, main event SummerSlam, maybe takes a little bit of time off, retired Goldberg, retired John Cena. We'll get into it all. I think we should just go ahead and announce, though, the Best Male Wrestler of the Year. Let's hear it.
Back to back like I'm on the cover of Lethal Weapon. Back to back like I'm your 96, 97. Whoa! The Ring General. GUNTHER.
I mean, listen, like a little bitch. You don't retire John Cena. You don't retire Goldberg. You don't win championship gold all in the same year and not be best male wrestler of 2025. Capping it off with that John Cena retirement. I mean, listen, if you're a fan of C2 Wrestling, if you're a fan of WWE and you watched him retire John Cena and you didn't see this coming, you're not really watching. That is the best male wrestler of the year. Two-time, back-to-back, TWOEYS winner.
Look, the guy went in to 2025 as the World Heavyweight Champion, loses it, gets it back, retires a legend in Goldberg, faces CM Punk in the main event of night one of SummerSlam, goes on a hiatus, is a little banged up, comes back, brings back his old theme song, looks better than ever, and he makes John Cena tap out like a little bitch. This is not just your best male wrestler, two-time TWOEYS winner. This is the greatest of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this about my Philadelphia Eagles to all the fickle fans. Understand right now, you're living in the great times. You're living in the best moments. I want you at home to understand. You are living through the greatest to ever do it. Understand, it will never, ever be better than what this guy does.
I really don't know if I can say it much better than that. The Ring General Gunther, best male wrestler of the year, maybe the most deserving award we've given out tonight. Congrats to all the winners of this year's C2E's, the most prestigious awards in all of wrestling. What a year for not only WWE, but for C2.
A lot of big things coming. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following us on all social medias. We're going to have a lot of fun. I am so excited for 2026. I can only imagine next year's TWOEYS, how great it will be, where we're at, the moments we'll see, and we get to start plotting because this goes up January 1st. That means clock is ticking. Nominations get rolling. Let's see who impresses. Let's see who is deserving of being in next year's categories. So you got to see by subscribing.
For all of you that are subscribed, cowards of the year.